Are you tired of dried out, chalky, under-seasoned chicken? You ever wonder why when you go to a restaurant it seems to always taste better? Well, today, Xander and I are going to show you how to properly season, sear, and cook chicken breast that will turn out golden and juicy every single time you go to a pan. Stick with us.
We're going to show you how.
Searing and cooking chicken is one of the most pivotal foundational techniques that any chef has in their repertoire and any home cook should know as well. Almost every single one of us have had super dried out chicken breast at home, whether it's by our own hand or growing up when mom or grandma might have accidentally overcooked some chicken. And we all know just how bad that can be. A lot of us know people as well that go to the gym regularly, trying to work on their bodies and make themselves feel better and stay healthier, that eat simply chicken and broccoli all the time. And I tell you what, that can be super boring. So today we're going to show you, our shoe chefs, how to properly cook chicken breast. Now there are a couple of typical pitfalls that we're going to help you avoid. Xander and I chose to break down a whole chicken, got a whole roasting chicken on sale, and we took it down in its parts. We're going to use the breasts for this video today, saving the thighs and the legs for other things, saving the bones for chicken stock, which we actually have videos for, both making your own chicken broth at home and how to break down a chicken. So if you're interested, go ahead and check those out. You can also buy boneless, skinless chicken breasts at the store ready to go for you. Now, cost effectiveness, better to break down your whole chicken. Typically you get it for a couple cents cheaper a pound. Now that you've got the perfect chicken breast picked out for you, we've got a couple more steps to go over before we hit the pan. But first, we're gonna wash our hands and we're gonna get into the kitchen. All right, so now that we're in the kitchen, we've got a couple steps before we get our pan on the stove and get it really, really hot and ready to sear our chicken. A huge mistake that is made before the chicken is even cooked is under seasoning. There are a lot of people who do not enjoy chicken because they've had so many times where it is bland and flavorless.
What does bland mean, Dad?
So bland means that it has very little to no flavor. It's all kind of one level. It's not balanced. It just kind of feels bleh.
Bleh.
So we're going to avoid that today by properly seasoning our food. Now, we talk a lot about salt in our episodes, and we're going to talk about it again here today. Seasoning chicken is one of the very few, if only, ways that you're going to get any real flavor into the chicken itself. Even with an organic chicken versus a farm-raised chicken, the chicken breast itself is a very lean piece of meat, meaning that it has very little to no intermuscular fat, which is where a lot of the flavor comes from. So we're going to add salt and pepper in a pretty good amount here to our chicken breasts. We're going to take our kosher salt and we're going to liberally season over the top of both top and bottom of our chicken. We're also going to use a little bit of cracked black pepper. Now we're going to avoid using any powdered onion or garlic or any other seasoning for this particular recipe here, just to show you the technique that we're going to use across the board. We're focusing today on the searing of the chicken and the cooking of the chicken versus all of the extra cool flavorings that we can do, which we'll do in later episodes. Now, you may be thinking, Derek, that is a ton of salt that you're putting on. There's two things here that we need to recognize. First, the type of salt that we're using is actually more flaky, so it looks much bigger on camera and in real life. However, it is a lower sodium content overall compared to an iodized salt. It also dissolves much differently. So this is why we as chefs use this type of salt for most all applications. Secondly, chicken is a protein. Protein does not like to absorb seasoning very fast. So we're going to use a lot of it to get all the way into the center of the meat itself and allow the meat to actually be seasoned inside and out instead of it just being a really salty crust on top. As the chicken sits, you'll start to see moisture being pulled out of the chicken, and that's actually being replaced with the seasoning as it goes in, and that's going to give you the best restaurant quality outcome on your chicken breast. From here, we're going to let this salt and the pepper do its work for about 10 to 15 minutes. We are going to keep ours in the refrigerator just for the sake of temperature safety. We also need to remember as well, as we're moving through our processes here, that we need to be washing our hands if we touch the chicken and move to a different part of our kitchen. We don't want to cross-contaminate our surfaces, or our knives, or our ingredients. We're going to treat the boneless, skinless chicken breast the same as the skin-on chicken breast, and we're going to show you how to cook both of those here shortly. Once the chicken has sat in its seasoning, again, 10 to 15 minutes, now we can safely assume that the chicken is going to be seasoned inside and out. You'll notice that the moisture has started to pool. This is a big chef tip right here, that we need to sear chicken that's dry. You need to pat dry the surfaces of your chicken to give yourself the best outcome. If your chicken breast is moist or wet or damp, that will inhibit that caramelization in the pan from happening. So we're going to take a couple of paper towels, give it a nice little pat dry, and now we're ready for the next step. Now, depending upon the size of your chicken breast, you may be able to cook this completely through in the pan without any issues. If you are using a bigger chicken breast, a little bit thicker chicken breast, you may actually need to finish this in the oven. Go ahead and kick your oven on to 350. We're gonna move over to our stove. We're gonna get a pan on the stove. Now, we want to do this in small batches as we go, so we don't wanna overcrowd our.
What's overcrowding, Dad?
So overcrowding is if you try to push too much stuff into one place. So for this instance, if we tried to take our smaller pan and put 5 or 6 chicken breasts in, they're all jammed on top of each other, and the pan won't be able to get hot enough and things are gonna start to steam. We won't get a nice brown on the chicken. So the next chef tip to getting a perfectly seared piece of chicken breast is actually starting with a hot pan. A lot of times we'll start in a pan, a little bit of oil, bring it all up together at the same time to get going on things. In this case, we want a nice hot pan before the oil hits. We're also going to use a neutral cooking oil versus a really nice olive oil because we're going to be cooking at a very, very high heat. So we're going to get our pan up nice and hot, and you can test your pan by hovering your hand over the top of it, not touching it, but over the top of it. And if you can't hold your hand there for more than a couple seconds, you know the pan's ready to go. You can also toss just a little bit of water in, and if it immediately starts to bubble up and evaporate, then you know your pan is ready to receive the oil and your chicken. We're going to throw a good helping or a couple tablespoons of our oil in. You'll notice it starts to shimmer and maybe even smoke a little bit as you go. This is where we're going to be really careful, but we're going to move fast. We're going to take our chicken breast, what would be skin side down, into the pan. Now that that chicken is in the pan, we're going to kick the heat down just to about a medium high. We don't want to burn anything, and we don't want to catch any of the oil on fire. We're going to turn it down so that way we're in control of what we're doing. Now, patience is key here. Depending upon your chicken breast, we're going to go roughly about between 2 to 5 minutes per side. And this is going to help ensure that we get that really nice golden brown caramelization on each side. It's also going to help us ensure that we're not sticking and tearing to the actual pan. And it's also going to help us cook all the way through. A really good tip to knowing when it's time to turn your chicken over is to look at the edge of the chicken that's in the pan. You'll start to notice that the pink flesh of the chicken is starting to turn white around that edge where the oil is cooking in the pan. And that's letting you know that that chicken should release pretty well, and you'll be able to flip it over. Now, once you flipped that over, we're going to go for another 3 to 5 minutes, and then you're going to put the chicken in the pan into the oven to finish. You're going to leave that in there, again, depending upon the size of your chicken breast. Another 3 to 5 minutes, kind of checking from there. You pull that back out, and then you check the temperature. Now that we've got this chicken seared at home and in restaurants, you are aiming to cook your chicken to about 150, 155, because what is going to happen now is what's called carryover cooking. As that meat is coming out of the oven, the external layer of the chicken itself is much hotter than that, while the internal temperature is at the 150. That heat from the outside is going to slowly migrate in as the chicken sits, and that temperature you will see actually rises up to between 5 and 10 degrees in some cases. So if you cook your chicken to about 150, 155, then you will be able to carry up that chicken to the 160 mark, which is safe to eat, no issues with salmonella, no issues with any foodborne illnesses, and it'll still be juicy. The best way to tell when your chicken is done is just to use a probe thermometer. You're going to take that probe, you're going to stick it into the fattest part of the chicken, and you're going to take the reading. You're going to hit right in the 150, 155 mark. Now that you've got the temperature right, we need to rest the meat. This is going to allow the proteins inside of the chicken to relax. That will allow them to hold on to more of the moisture inside of the chicken itself, maintaining a juicy consistency all the way through. A lot of chicken gets ruined when you cut into it too soon, if you don't let it rest, and that's where it gets really dry and just really hard to eat, not pleasant. We're actually going to go onto a resting rack, so that way the chicken itself rests with airflow underneath and on top, so it's all even. Once we've fully rested our chicken, again, now it is time to cut into it. We're going to use a sharp knife, and we're going to slice against the grain. Now, if you don't know what the grain of a meat is, you can see when the meat is raw, you can see kind of a direction of the sinews of that. Chicken typically will run from top to bottom, so you want to cut horizontally or across that grain, so that way the chicken isn't stringy. So we're going to take our knife and we're going to cut nice slices out of this, so that way we're ready to go for our dinner. You'll notice that as you're cutting it, that chicken looks super juicy, it's glistening. We know it's really well seasoned on the inside. That resting time and that carryover cooking have helped fully cook the chicken, but also maintain as much moisture as we can inside. Our second way to sear and cook a chicken breast is with the skin on, and we're going to add a lot of extra flavor to this. So we've shown you now the way to cook a skinless chicken breast with just oil, salt, and pepper, but this one we're going to do a little bit different. Same method, same technique, just with an additional couple of ingredients and some extra pizzazz. Once we have our pan hot, we're going to add our oil. We're going to go skin side down, just like with our other chicken breast. We're going to get a nice sear. We're going to flip it over and get a nice sear on that side too, another couple of minutes. Once that second side has gotten a good sear on it, we are going to take a couple of pats of salted butter, toss those in. We're also going to take a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme from our garden and 2 nice cloves of crushed garlic. You're going to start to see that butter foam up. It's going to start to pull the flavor out of the thyme, and the garlic's going to start to meld into there too, and this is going to start to infuse with the chicken, adding a lot of extra flavor, a lot of extra depth. While that butter is starting to foam up and start to brown, we're going to take a spoon and we're going to start to do what's called basting, which is just taking fat and we're going to start pouring that over top of the chicken. Fat in this case is the butter and a little bit from underneath the chicken skin. We're going to tilt our pan just ever so slightly so the butter wants to fall down to the bottom of our pan. We're going to scoop up some of that butter and then we're going to pour it over the top of the chicken. Again, we're looking for about 150, 155. We're going to rest that chicken just the same way as our other chicken breast. You'll notice we still have the butter, the thyme, and the garlic on the stove. This is the perfect time to make a pan sauce for a really killer chicken dinner. Now, if you want to see us do a pan sauce, drop us a comment. Let us know that that's something you want to see, and Xander and I would be happy to make that episode for you, because a killer pan sauce is really, really pivotal to a perfect roast chicken dinner. And that's that. That is a cooked chicken breast ready to go. That's going to be juicy, seasoned, tender, nice and golden brown on the outside. Perfect for whatever you want, whether it's with some mashed potatoes and gravy, or if it's with your rice and broccoli, because you're getting that lift on. Till the next time, we'll see you.
Bye.
This is straight up, no notes, no bullet points, just winging it, chicken winging it. Okay, let's reel it in.